Hello, friends. So, with the revised guidelines by RBI a couple of days back on priority sector lending, good news for our startup ecosystem, which will be now under the priority sectors for banks. Now, banks set aside a certain percentage of their money to give low credits, low interest rate credits to priority sectors that largely include agriculture, institutions, education institutions, and others. Now, startups and MSMEs as well. Now, startups being added to this list of sectors, it will give great funding, an alternate source of good source of funding, debt funding to the startups, which they always find it very difficult. Largely, we have seen startup ecosystem has been thriving on the venture capitalist investments, then friends and family in the initial stages in terms of investment. Banks often lend them at a very high rate because they perceive it as a very risky venture. Now, with this priority sector lending status to the startup ecosystem, they can raise funds, cheaper funds, less than 10% interest rate. And that is something which will help them preserve their value, their equity value, which often they had to trade to the venture capitalists at a very cheaper rate. Uh, if we can say so, largely they are preyed upon by the venture capitalists to trade their equity, a large stake for a small amount of money. But that's not in every case, definitely. So overall, what we see that even the venture capitalists would realize that the valuation of these startups will be much more with this easier credit flow of money from the banks. At least the working capital of these startups can be managed. So that ways, it's a good step, revolutionary step, if we can say so, because startups are the future. That is something, all the innovations come out from there. So that is something very important, and that has got a big push through this revised PSL guidelines. Now, another transformative change, what we have seen is the changes in the agri sector in the last 1 year or 6 months, let's say, largely in the COVID environment context. We have seen how the APMC regulation, the strict control of the movement of supply chain of agri products from farm to fork, has been relaxed more and more across states, and it is more on the lines of uniform market and e-trading. And in that context, with this policy space being created, new startups have come in this sector, and these startups are expanding greatly in the agri space, leveraging this policy space created for them, this market space created for them. And if we see the numbers, then in the last couple of years, more than $600 million have been raised in the agri startups by several startups combined. So a lot of deals are happening, a lot of fundraising is happening, and this with this new PSL status, it will give another booster to the startup ecosystem in the Indian context. And a thumbs up to that. Thank you.